This morning I have Mr. Gary Griffith, who is the former Commissioner of Police. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning to you and good morning, Tobago.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always a very interesting conversation. Um, this morning we're talking about some legal issues that you would have had with this current administration. We know that you have been battling with them since you left office in regards to a number of things. Recently, we saw that they had tried to impede on your personal finances and a number of other things that keep coming to the forefront. And we're going to talk about them this morning. But first, we want to start off with one of the headlines that has been circulating yesterday and today, which is that case that you had with the Express newspaper where the court ordered you to pay their legal fees because it upheld the argument of the Express that they were arguing on the Reynolds justification for the media. So tell us a bit about that case. A lot of persons don't really know what that case was about. We know it was about a number of articles that they had posted in the newspapers that you had opposed. So tell us a bit about those articles.
Yeah, sure. So what happened? That article by the Express was the catalyst that started the tsunami of wrong information, misleading information being put out to the public and causing politicians to write that false information. So it was a headline article that was published by Trinidad and Tobago Express stating gun scandal, and it had to do with the distribution of firearms to law-abiding citizens from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So the article had a front page on Sunday stating gun scandal, and then it stated that firearms were being given to citizens who had criminal charges, which cannot and should not be done. Firearms were being given to men who had reports of abusing their spouse and had criminal charges against their spouse, and the spouse did not approve it. And also that certain persons were paying large sums of money as bribes to get firearms. When this came about, I did all the research and we found not a shred of evidence, no witness, no documents, no support on it. But Trinidad and Tobago is one thing. When you say the same lie over and over, people would believe it. And then the politicians picked up on it. So what this did, this article was obviously not just to, it affected my character, my reputation, my image, but also that of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I built public confidence and trust in the police service at 14%. I got it. I left it at 55%. And it is things like this that can affect the image and the confidence that the public will have in the police service. So rightfully, I had to take them to court on my behalf and also on behalf of the reputation of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Taking them to court, the three persons went on the witness stand, and not one of them, when they asked, show us any evidence, any data, any documents, anything to show that persons were receiving firearms with criminal records. Nothing. They could find nothing. Show us any documents, records, evidence, data, witnesses of men who received firearms with reports of abusing their spouse. Nothing. They had nothing they could show. Show us any reports of persons paying bribes. Nothing. So basically, they lied. And that was what my case was about, that right. The Express had lied, they misled the country, and it was defamatory. The court agreed that it was defamatory. What the court stated, however, this was Justice Jacqueline Wilson, who happened to be the same judge that had thrown out the matter pertaining to the local government election that was supposed to take place. And she said, when it is that Mr. Adam Ramlogan took this matter as the lead attorney to court, she's the same judge. And she said that in this matter, that she saw it as responsible journalism, because even though it was a lie because they were not able to show it, that she believed that the reporters did their research expecting that what they published was true. And she then said it was in the public's interest, even though everything that was said was not true. It was in the public's interest for it to be printed because it gave me because I had the opportunity to reply. But the two main things that came out of it is that it was agreed it was defamatory, and when the Express was given the opportunity to show it, they were not. So as much as there was Reynolds privileges, which gives it's a window of opportunity where the person, even though you defame the individual, you can actually be protected from defamatory costs. But my main thing was to show that it was defamatory and to expose the fact that the Express lied and misled the country because they were not able to provide a shred of evidence as it pertained to their false accusations.
Well, excellent. You answered my question that I was going to ask you there.
Sorry, I will be taking this to the appeal, and I'm very sure that this I will be appealing this, and I'm very confident that we will win this because it is tonight. I don't want to go into the court details. But a matter like this, we've done all the research and we will win this appeal.
Excellent. Well, as I was saying before, you answered a number of the questions that my follow-up questions there in regards to that Reynolds privilege and the fact that the judge indicated that she felt it was responsible journalism, even though a number of the things that were posted was not true. But she felt that it was balanced in that you were able to respond to a number of the accusations. So you were able to basically debunk some of the things that were put out there in the newspaper. Well, we look forward to hearing how this case evolves as you appeal it. And we wish you all the best with that. However, you also had another matter in the court yesterday. So tell us about that, which was against the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley.
Yeah, there have been several matters. And in fact, I am not the only one. What we have noticed is that the government is what they're doing is trying to control independent institutions and institutions that are not supposed to be controlled by the state, by the politicians, be it the Police Service Commission, the Office of the Commissioner of Police, the FIU, the SSA, and each institution, politicians are using these institutions to target political opponents. It started with myself as Commissioner of Police. And it's only in this country that the country has not just stood up and said enough is enough. And in most developed countries, this government would have collapsed because of incompetence, corruption, mismanagement, abuse of power, dictatorship. And it started when it is a prime minister could tell a commissioner of police, I am giving you $45 million to go into your police account, and this is to be used solely to target political opponents. No, that is madness. And, we accept this because so many mistakes take place weekly and dropping off the ball by this government. We just go on to something else. But just hear that. A government tells a commissioner of police, we are supposed to fund you, but this $45 million we're giving you must be used solely to investigate political opponents so that they could be arrested. No, that is madness. And we accept this. And sometimes the most diehard PNM supporter, how could you actually agree to something like this? So what they started doing is obviously because of my personality, when it is that I refuse to be used politically by any politician in any political party because I sworn oath to my God, my country, and the citizens of this great country, they realize that, and then they realize, okay, if Gary is leaving, we have to discredit him. And that is where all sort of different things came about. So it started with they're trying to put an audit committee because they launched all type of investigations, again, starting from that Express article that was full of lies, and they could find nothing because there was nothing. And again, this government has forced the police to spend more time investigating legal firearms than illegal firearms. So what they did is when they realized that there was nothing to be found, they said, let's operate just like what we did in Emailgate. So you hire civilians, take these civilians, put them into the police service and tell the civilians you are to do an audit to investigate firearms in the police service. And then the Prime Minister then boasted that when he gets the report, he is going to Parliament to say it. Now, we know why Parliament is the reason. Parliament is the one place where politicians can lie, discredit persons, and not have to pay the price for defamation. So I obviously took this to court because to start with this audit committee, these guys were so incompetent, they didn't understand the first thing you do in an audit is to speak to the person who was in charge of the company that you're auditing. They never spoke to me. So under natural justice, obviously it fell flat. The court also said it was very irrational for how the Prime Minister operated. They would question the actions of the Commissioner of Police, which was McDonald Jacob, to allow civilians to come into the police service to investigate matters of the police. And then what the court did rightfully is that the audit, they actually prevented the Prime Minister from doing what he wanted, which was to reveal it in Parliament. And I said, shouldn't people say that there's something to hide? No, I want Keith Rowley to come and say anything about me in public, but he can't because that is where he's a coward. He wanted to hide in Parliament to say it. So I won that matter. And there was an injunction filed, and I won that as well. And then there was a recent matter with the FIU, where the FIU, as a financial independent body, is supposed to monitor the finances of persons if there's a red flag activity by that individual. There was never any red flag activity by me. If it is that people wanted to see my accounts, they could knock their socks off. But do not dig up into the accounts of myself and my wife, and you're digging up in it in the hope that you can find something. That is not how these institutions are supposed to be. It is not to be used as a fishing expedition to witch hunt in the hope that you can find something. But obviously they were working again on instructions of politicians. So again, I took them to court and the injunction was upheld. There's another one that is also coming soon, where my phones are also being illegally intercepted by the law enforcement agencies who are working for their political employers. And you cannot intercept phones of persons unless there's due process, there's just cause, and there's some justification that the person is involved in some act, and there wasn't. So that is where it is. All of these matters continue to go to court. We continue to win. The most recent, obviously, would have been the Privy Council ruling about with local government election, because the criminal justice system, or the judiciary, I should say, is the one arm of our independent institutions that have not been controlled, manipulated by this government. Because if it is you do that, what we have right now is one man handpicks the president, the chief justice practically, the president of the Senate, the speaker of the House, the chief of defense staff, the commissioner of police, all of the service commissions, because he selects the president who then selects those people. That is dictatorship. And we have to be very careful to understand what is happening in this country. So by me going to court and winning my matters and other persons doing the same, what we are doing is putting a hold and stopping this government from being involved in what can be stated as democratic dictatorship.
Right. And so with that ruling, the High Court ruling in regards to the local government election, what can we really see coming out of that? What are the consequences for the decision to delay the local government? What can we see?
Well, again, what it shows, again, is the concept of this government feeling that they could do what they want, whenever they want, say what they want, and nobody can say anything. What makes it even more unfortunate is every time they lose a matter in court, this Attorney General has now proven to be the most incompetent ever. He has the audacity, and he looks at certain words, like even with my matter, with the audit, there was an injunction. I filed for an injunction, and we won. And he actually said the fact that they won. We went to court and we said it must not go to Parliament. We won the matter because they said it could not go to Parliament. And the Attorney General does a press release to say they won. The FIU matter, where we filed an injunction. So, and then this matter, yet again, he speaks now as if they won. You lost again. And then what makes it worse is that you're throwing veiled threats to the media, to citizens, to be careful as to what you say about this matter, because you can be charged for contempt. So the Attorney General is now operating as a prosecutor, trying to threaten members of independent institutions yet again. And it shows where we are with this government. They feel that they can bully people, say what they want, threaten individuals, and the country is scared. There are tens upon tens of thousands of persons who are supporting this party that I lead presently as the National Transformation Alliance. And they are mortified because of victimization, because of accusations, because of political manipulation of certain rogue elements in the police service, as we saw with the Brent Thomas matter, which that was another court matter lost again by the government, by the state. So this matter now with the Privy Council is a government basically trying to state, we are telling you, the citizens, that your constitutional right to vote, something that is enshrined in our constitution, we are telling you, we will tell you when it is that we are ready to allow you to have your right to vote. That was madness. And because this was sent by someone to the Privy Council ruled that it was wrong. So the government has failed yet again. And what this has exposed is the fact of that democratic dictatorship, where certain things in our constitution, your right to vote, your right to select who must represent you, whether it is in parliament or regional corporations, you have these politicians stating that we can control the constitution and override it because we are in power. And that is something that is very serious. And what I am hearing now is that they will, even though what the Privy Council has stated, they are going to find an excuse to delay it till probably about December. And that shows total lack of respect, a slap in the face to even the Privy Council and to the citizens of this great country, that after the citizens are demanding that you have a local government election, the Privy Council has filed a ruling telling you that you were wrong. You are still going to try to find an avenue to delay it. And you know why? Because their polls are showing that they are going to be annihilated. And if you get annihilated in the local government election, it's time to call a general election.
Right, and that leads to my next question as we wrap up this morning's interview. What can we look forward to with you and the National Transformation Alliance in the upcoming local government election?
Well, there are several political parties, and they speak and they do these press conferences and they talk a lot. And then when elections come about, they back off. That means you're an activist group, nothing more, nothing less. And that is important. There's nothing against that. The NTA, we are definitely not an activist group. We are a political party. So if there's an election, we will participate in that election. And again, our main aim is to ensure that we put an end to this type of democratic dictatorship. We have an individual full of hate, arrogance, his ego has. And again, looking at what just happened recently, when I offered my services to help this country to try to reduce one extra murder, to make citizens feel safer, you have an individual who says, basically, I don't care what the country wants. I don't care what is right for the country. My ego, my arrogance, my hatred, my bitterness takes precedence. And if it is that the country drowns in blood, so be it. And people actually applauded that. So it means that the people who applauded that, when this man said that, you're basically saying, well, I know it could affect my daughter being raped, my son being kidnapped, my husband being murdered, but the head of my political party says so I will applaud, like, those trained seals in Orlando and SeaWorld. And that is unfortunate. I ask the citizens with an election pending, you need to vote for what is right for the country, what is right for your family, what can make it easier for you to make your standard of living better. And the same way that I was able to transform what was arguably the most difficult arm in the public service, that being the Tobago Police Service, I promise you we are going to transform every single arm in the public sector with an NTA being in government or part of government. So we obviously would be taking part. As I said, I ask the country to be very aware of what they are seeing in this type of democratic dictatorship by this government. The individual who leads this country, he really doesn't care. I just for information, I have actually been liaising with Tobago, and the same way that I offered my services to assist the central government, and it was rejected because of their arrogance, and they rather see the country drown in blood and do what is right for the country. I would be offering similar services to Tobago, because when I was Minister of National Security and then Commissioner of Police, it was the lowest number of crimes that you would have seen. Tobago felt safe because there were dozens upon dozens of initiatives, policies, programs, units that I put in place there in Tobago to make it safe. And the Tobago House of Assembly, they have the opportunity to be able to implement policies that the law enforcement agencies can then operationalize to make life difficult for the criminal elements in Tobago. So you'll hear about that in the very near future.
Right, and recently we saw in the headlines that the current commissioner of police has seen a 10% increase in killings during her time. However, she claims that there has been a 17% reduction in serious crimes. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it is mind-boggling. Listen, since I was minister, I've always seen this where people try to play with numbers. You remember Martin Joseph? He said there was a decrease in the increase in crime. The murders are the catalyst for when it comes to measuring the performance of a commissioner of police or even the government. And the fact of the matter is that Ulla Christopher inherited the highest spike in crime in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, thanks to the incompetence of McDonald Jacob, who decided to shut down and dismantle almost every single thing that I put in place. So it is going to be very difficult for her to take that battle and to change it. But she is not doing anything different. She's operating in the same administrative manner as McDonald Jacob and Stephen Williams, that old type of policing. Things to be dynamic, out of the box thinking, using technology, 21st century policing, predictive policing. They are not doing this. You have an ACP in Tobago where he is saying the right things and he is speaking a different language to Ulla Christopher. And if you listen to it, you will see that. I'm not here to compare, but what I can say is that there's good hope for Tobago in the comments that are being made by Mr. Hazel. He seems to understand the type of policing that I was doing. And if it is, he can get that support from the THA and the public and the citizens in Tobago, Tobago will be in a much better place. As it pertains to Ulla Christopher, as I said, she does not have the capability in being operational, strategic, tactical to deal with law enforcement, hard targeting, policing. That she doesn't know. And that is why so far she has not been able to state one thing, not one policy to be able to reduce crime. You've heard about prayers, about tea parties, and also everything else. Not one policy. You're hearing a lot from Mr. Hazel. So as it pertains holistically for Trinidad and Tobago to reduce crime under Earl Christopher's watch, it is very dim. Under Tobago, it is hope that what Mr. Hazel is stating and what he intends to do can actually bear fruit if it is that he gets the support from the citizens in Tobago and also that of the THA.
And thank you so much, Mr. Griffith. Thank you for giving us your time.